his election has brought some new excitement and renewed hope in the people of Senegal. Because of the fact that just a few months ago, this man, Bassirou Faye, was little known in Senegal. He was a taxman from a village in Senegal. He had formed alliances with his compatriot, Sonko, both taxmen. They did not like the way the Senegal was being administered. They criticized the policies of Macky Sall. They thought that there must be a new direction. Macky Sall was not that enthused by the fight. He trumped out charges against both of them. For Faye, it was defamation and some other charge. For Sonko, rape and all those things. And so both of them were incarcerated. Somehow, Macky Sall wanted to perpetuate himself in office. His term of office was going to end on the 2nd of April. He had postponed elections. Civil society organizations in Senegal took up arms in the sense that they went onto the streets. They thought that they should not allow Macky Sall to derail the course of their democracy. Senegal is the only country in Africa, particularly West Africa, that has not experienced any coup d'etat since it got independence. And for Macky Sall to try to attempt an unconstitutional elongation of his power, I mean his stay in office, was fiercely resisted by civil society organizations and political parties. The matter went to court. The court ruled that he should not stay one more day in office after 2nd April, and that he should take steps to conduct elections to make sure that there's a political transition or the transition of power by 2nd April. He abided by the decision of the Constitution. He got the Parliament to pass an amnesty law. Bassirou benefited from the amnesty law. He was released from prison. He was not barred from contesting elections. Sonko was barred from contesting elections. And so, Sonko, because he had been elected as the flag bearer of his party, Patriots or something like that, the name of their party, he then chose Bassirou to take his place. And within a period of 10 days at most, they campaigned. Sonko had already got the mobilization strategy and the campaign machinery because he had contested in previous elections. And so the campaign was simply Diomaye, or what's his name? The middle name? Diomaye is Sonko, and Sonko is Diomaye. And so I mean, if you were waiting, if you were coming out to vote for Sonko and Sonko is not longer available, this is Sonko. Diomaye is Sonko. Bassirou is Sonko. Bassirou Faye is Sonko. And so that worked the trick. I mean, Senegal has a huge population of youth. It is estimated that about 65% of the country is youth. They came out in their numbers, ensured that the election did not go 2nd round. I mean, I'm supposed here to commend the people of Senegal because they were teetering on the brink of constitutional crisis. And if the election was to go to a 2nd round, they would have definitely been in a constitutional crisis because Macky Sall would have overstayed his welcome because he would have been in power beyond the stipulated period in the constitution of Senegal, or an arrangement would have been made where there will be a caretaker president for the purposes of the elections. But the people of Senegal were clear-eyed on what they wanted. They wanted a resolution of this matter, and they wanted it in such a way that it will not create conflict. They wanted it a clear-cut victory. And so they came out and voted en masse for Bassirou. Bassirou unconfirmed reports put at the time the elections was going on, put his election bid at over 54% of the votes. So even before the Electoral Commission, the accredited agency that is or body that is responsible for conducting elections, could call the elections for Bashiru, Ahmed Ba had called, who was the vice president or prime minister, had called the Bashiru to congratulate him. So the matter was ended. I mean, the matter was ended because he was languishing around 30-something% when Bashiru had already crossed the 50 mark. And this is a lesson to all of us. I mean, you deal with political situations decisively. And I hope that Ghanaians are learning from what has happened in Senegal. And speaking for the NDC and speaking for a change in this country, I think that so many years ago, a Muslim cleric in Tamale told me, at the time that President Mills was in power, to communicate to President Mills, the power is not shared. You bring them together. You bring power, all the arms of power, or the instruments of power to one point. If you share power, you weaken it. And so the people of Senegal have demonstrated what the Muslim cleric had told me so many years ago, that look, you need to be decisive in who you want to rule the country. And when you make the decision, you have to come out to ensure the manifestation of that decision. Now, what is more thrilling and heartwarming is that nobody died out of the elections in Senegal. No gun was fired. People were not arrested. No one attempted a snatching of the ballot box or a chewing of ballot papers. No one attempted that. People went and exercised their civic right to determine the leadership of a country. And that is why the whole world is so excited. And that is why we who are not so far away from Senegal and who share the West African region with them are also excited. That if it can happen in Senegal, it should be able to happen in Ghana.
I used to come here with
when it happens in Ghana, and we don't have conflict. We don't have military men storming parliament. We don't have people being killed here and there because somebody wants power. Then you can confidently hit your chest and say our democracy is consolidated. But if you have vigilantes, Bolga bulldogs, or what's the other name? Delta Force, hunting and attacking political opponents and ensuring that fighting them out of the ballot place. When you have policemen who say that they have a plan for breaking the 8. I mean, policemen have a plan for breaking the 8. I have never known policemen be interested in outcome of elections because you are state institutions. How you? I mean, you are there to serve in the government, but a policeman can say, "Oh, I know how to break the 8," and an IGP, the system IGP, might not help the cause. You see, that is the level to which we have sunk as a country. And I don't know whether when the policeman, and I understand he's a lawyer, when he was saying those things, did he avert to his mind to the express provisions of the Constitution and the subversion of the Constitution, subversion of the express will of the people? But Senegal clearly has shown the way. Faye has promised prosperity, fairness, and developing Senegal within the African context. He's shown his Pan-Africanist credentials. He's not enthused at all by the machinations of the imperialists. And I think that he will find good company in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Yeah, he's not. Francophonie. The movement against France has moved away from military overthrows to now constitutionally elected governments, stating their position so clearly and legitimately so. And so, for me, to be honest, you see, I'm excited in the way I'm speaking about Senegal, because never again should anybody lose his life because someone wants power. Never. Never. And then, because they want power, they give the youth crumbs. And it is for the youth to take their destiny into their own hands and choose who they want to represent them. That's why I have great faith and confidence in my nephew Bota. Because, I mean, the youth belong, the future belongs to people like him. People like you. But you must craft the future. Nothing happens by accident. You must craft it. You must know what you want. Because obviously, this is not our Ghana. This is not our Ghana where graft, corruption, nepotism, you name it, has afflicted the country. Has afflicted the country. And so, in the upcoming elections, the youth must emulate what has happened in Senegal and come out and decisively vote, and vote for a new direction. That's how I will end my submissions.
Right, thank you very much. Elvis just joined us. Elvis, good morning. Mr. Bota, Dr. Bota.
You should address
Dr. Bota.
He's a bad boy. Yes, he's my senior brother, but he's bad.
I'm not a senior brother.
The way things go sometimes.
About a year or two.
Seniority is relative now. Your circumstances determine. Have you attended a family gathering and the last born comes and shows up with a jeep? And his uncles are bowing down to greet him. That is seniority.
It happened in a village where I'm from, where a young boy came to Accra and returned with a lot of money. Initially, the elders were skeptical and gossiping behind his back.
How he made that money.
But when he started giving them money to buy mobile phones and credit onto their phones, and giving them money to buy sheep for their weddings and whatnot, the whole thing changed into praises. Nobody asked where he got the money from again.
Interesting times. Very good morning to you.
I hope you're fine.
Yes, we can't complain. The mercies of God are abundant for our ability to endure. My prayer is with all Muslim brothers who are still enduring the pain of sacrifice in this month of Ramadan, that Allah will accept their supplications, and particularly those like my own uncle here who remembers the poor, the widows, and the needy. May God double their portions for them.
Amen.
And be merciful to us all.
Amen.
So, in the spirit of godliness, it is important that we interrogate national issues from a very nationalistic perspective, with the hope to doing our own bit of justice and mercy to our nation. I believe that we are endowed with what it takes by divine grace to be able to transform the fortunes of Ghana and to make the country and the continent habitable for people. It saddens me that as the most richest continent arguably in the world, in fact it's an established fact, that Africa is unmatched in terms of resources, and when it comes to labor, our numbers and population is good enough. So what then is the problem? The African problem is predicated on the hopelessness of the African leader. Without exemption, African leaders have manifested gross impunity in the way and manner they administer the various nations, God have entrusted under their care. And it is the reason for which we've witnessed unbearable hardship that have actually been transformed into conflicts in Africa. And our cardinal enemies, the countries of the West, Europe, now write using the instrument of the academia and their media to portray Africa as that continent that is a substitute to violence and insecurity. But thank God that for students of history, we know that Europe have fought the most dangerous wars and at a higher frequency than any part of the world. At least history has been fair to us on that. And so, if you understand things from this kind of context, then you would appreciate the Senegalese story today. And why, for me, I think that it calls for celebration, that we have the young man become president, and particularly so, reaffirming the confidence of the people in him that he can operate at a level of common sense and make a distinction from that which have become practically normative of African leaders. Why am I saying this? The argument I'm advancing is on the basis that the people of Senegal lost hope in governance. They lost hope in the economy when it comes to corruption. They lost hope particularly because of the tyrannical approach with which France, their colonial master, administered their affairs and became the shadow hand that manipulated all issues concerning the administration of the socio-political divides in Senegal. But this young man has emerged with a new dream, a new vision, inspiring the youth, inspiring the old, inspiring everybody, men and women, to join forces for a rebirth of Senegal. He has demonstrated that to achieve this unity and oneness of purpose is significantly key. So he has already defied the winner takes all mantra that has bedeviled African politics in countries like Ghana, where the winner takes all attitude is practically killing the soul of an otherwise wealthy nation. The appointment made of, if you like it, the prime minister, I think in the person of Ousmane Sonko, Ousmane Sonko's appointment as prime minister is enough to conclude that the 44-year-old president-elect means business. He means business to the extent that he's looking at patching up, you know, all the gaps within the political divides of the Senegalese people, and to have one Senegal to fight a common enemy, which is the neo-colonialist and imperialist metropolis that have established itself deeply rooted in all corridors of power and governance in Senegal. So then, delving detailed into the matter, you realize that he is not of the same, the president, I mean, is not of the same political persuasion with the man he has appointed as prime minister. Their constitution allows that the president appoints the prime minister. And he went out of his way, out of his party, out of the kingpins of his own political organization to make an appointment of one of the most volatile opposition leaders Senegal has ever had, who in fact himself contested to be president in 2019 with the PASTEF party, which otherwise you just want to call it in English, that's the Patriots of Senegal. And Ousmane Sonko took his activism and his knowledge of law and his knowledge of the economy as a tax officer, a tax inspector, to push for good governance. It is therefore hopeful on our part that his sense of activism whilst in opposition and the trajectory he advocated for the Senegalese economy to be pushed through, be made and be brought bare and into practicality as he occupies the enviable role of prime minister at a time that Senegalese is at a very pivotal stage of determining their future, taking into consideration the kind of past or history they have recorded. So that's a good start. And I just wish to add only this bit, standing on all other fronts that have initially been advanced by my uncle, the respected Honorable Inusa Fuseni, and to say that it's early days, we are watching keenly. Our only prayer now for Senegal is that whilst we celebrate in joy and in happiness for them, it is early days yet, because Africa is plagued with that canker and cancer where people in opposition are very intelligent. I am yet to see a stupid opposition in Africa. All African opposition leaders and opposition parties are very intelligent. They have all the solutions. They become the purveyor of solutions to all the practical problems of the country when they are in opposition. Immediately we come to power, the rhetoric and the thesis change, and one wonders what at all is in power that really manipulates the sense of intelligence of African leaders. So then I hope that the young men who the Senegalese people have entrusted their future upon their shoulders will sustain the momentum and will not actually find themselves riding on the same old horses the corrupt, manipulated old folks have led us into. I will pause here and only can't wait to continue with the realities in our Ghanaian situation.
Right. Time check is 8:45 a.m. If you are just joining us, you're watching the newspaper review segment of Good Morning Africa live from our studios here, number 48 Swanika Street in Abelimpe. Now, there's this letter from the office of the president that has been making rounds on social media. If we can display that on the screen, I'll be extremely happy. The letter from the office of the president, and I'd like to read it. It says, "Dear Commissioner General, extension of service as Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority. I am pleased to inform you that the President has granted you a 2-year extension of service as Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority from 11th October 2021 to 10th October 2023. I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your further extension. Please accept the President's best wishes. Signed, Nana Bedietu Asante, Secretary to the President." And this letter was to Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa, Commissioner General, Ghana Revenue Authority, Accra. Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa, Commissioner General, Ghana Revenue Authority. And this is a letter that was intercepted by the Member of Parliament for the North Dawn constituency, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. And he writes, "Intercepted letters from the presidency shockingly reveal that President AKUFO-ADDO is hell-bent on doing everything possible to protect GRA Commissioner General Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa, who served for close to 3 years without a contract after retirement. President AKUFO-ADDO now grants the retired GRA boss 2 belated contracts to cover his tracks. But will this be enough to save the beleaguered Reverend? What a government." So this is from Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, the Member of Parliament for the North Dawn constituency. Well, interesting, very, very interesting developments here. Let me start with you, Honorable Inusa Fuseni, on this topic.
Well, the impunity of Nana AKUFO-ADDO is legendary. He does what he pleases, and he cares a hoot about the feelings of Ghanaians. He encourages people to act illegally and count out to ex post facto approve the illegality. You recall the burning of the excavators. when he ordered the burning of excavators, we asked him, please, which law gives you the authority to do that? Because there's a legal regime that regulates the seizure of properties from illegal mining sites. There's a complete legal regime. He said if they didn't burn the excavators will go back. I thought that the excavators were always operated by human beings. He didn't say the human beings will go back. He said the excavators will go back. And that is the same thing that has happened in the Reverend case. I'm disappointed that a Reverend minister, a man of God, will find himself immersed in this thing. Where is the fear of God? Where is the lawfulness in this matter? And when the matter first came to public attention, I, as a student of constitutional law, I was of the view that what Reverend Emishadai what? Emishadai something? Emisa. What he had engaged in and what the president had permitted done was palpably and demonstrably wrong. I mean, there were some who said, no, there can be always an ex facto ratification of that, and that if but I had argued, and I now stand vindicated by the release of these letters. I had argued that you don't interpret a constitutional provision to defeat the purpose of that provision. You interpret a constitutional provision, and that constitutional provision is actually a check on the exercise of governmental power. So you don't interpret that constitutional provision to defeat the purpose. And what is that constitutional provision? Let's go to the Constitution. The Constitution in chapter 14 establishes the public services, and provides in Article 199, a public officer shall, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, not in any other law, in this Constitution, shall retire from the public service on attaining the age of 60 years. Mandatory. Even though you can voluntarily retire at 45 years. 60 years, you have to go. You have to go because the youth must work. People must take over. But the Constitution says that, look, there could be situations, there could be circumstances which will necessitate a person staying in the office for some time, especially when he has some expertise that cannot easily be replaced. Then you allow him to stay in the office for a combined period of not exceeding 5 years, so that he can, within that time, train somebody to succeed him. Now, and so I had said that provision is in the amendment, which is in Act 527, and which amended the Constitution. That is the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, Amendment Act 1996, Act 527. It says, Article 199 of the Constitution is amended by the insertion after clause 3 of the following. 4. Notwithstanding clause 1 of this article, a public officer who has retired from the public service after attaining the age of 60 years may, where the exigencies of the service require, be engaged for a limited period of not more than 2 years at a time, but not exceeding 5 years in all, and upon such terms, upon such other terms and conditions as the appointing authority may determine. If you read these two provisions, 199 clause 1 and 4 as amended, you will come to but one conclusion, that if Inu Safeseni is working in public office and retires at 60, and the appointed authority wants to continue to keep Inu Safeseni in the office, then the appointed authority must stay before I can stay there. Not I stay there, and when my issues are raised, the appointed authority ex facto, because that will lead to an abuse of power. And you can see the demonstrable abuse of power. It was for all the 3 years Reverend Abishadai Mensa or Abisa was in office, he was working illegally. He had no contract. The president had not extended his stay. He was drawing from the public purse. Meanwhile, he had no contract. Bless, if this is not impunity, tell me what that is. It's government, public resources, public money, your money. Then this person took far-reaching decisions, including granting waivers to that woman. What was that woman? La Bianca. Far-reaching decisions without contract. So that want to do the ex post facto approval of the Evishadai's waiver or what? So I have no doubt in my mind that President AKUFO-ADDO is engaged in some illegality. The illegality has caught up with him. And he's gotten his executive secretary to write 2 letters. Because the Constitution says that, see, the Constitution says that you can extend 2 years at a time. They didn't do that, though. They didn't do that, though. The first 2 years elapsed. There's a 3rd year. So that's why they wrote 2 letters. So they extend the first from 2001 to 2003, and from 2023, 2021 to 2023, then 2023 to 2024. And then they terminated his contract and appointed another 61-year-old woman. AKUFO-ADDO doesn't like the youth at all. He doesn't think that there's a young man who can take over the reins of the GRA and do good work. So he's going to take another 61-year-old person. Now, so the question that I ask myself is, why would the president, with all his lawyers, including the Attorney General, who can advise him not to sign a bill passed by Parliament, not advise the president that the Constitution, Article 199, 1 and 4, appear to require that the contract for anybody who has attained the age of 60 be extended before that person can legitimately, or so soon after that person has acquired 60, for that person to continue to be at work. Why didn't the Attorney General advise? Or that thing was not brought to the attention of the Attorney General? Or we are having a government in thoughts. It is only when an issue comes out that the government and AKUFO-ADDO and his coterie of ministers and lawyers and advisors now advising, this is what you have to do. They go to sleep when the issue doesn't attract public attention, and they wake up and begin firefighting. How do we ensure that this thing is legitimized? Make it legit, because if not, we shall die. In the future, a matter will be forced to pay back to the state all the monies that he had taken, because that was illegal. So clearly, for me, this has once again demonstrated and exposed the charade that we have in this country, of a government that rules the way it wants, does things with impunity, and is actually not concerned with the plight of the people of this country. We will come, I'll have opportunity to talk about why we are where we are. Because Chima Seboso has said, breaking the 8 will not be easy. And I will try to demonstrate why breaking the 8 will not be easy. But for now,
or maybe
impossible. but for now, suffice it to say that AKUFO-ADDO sacked the Auditor General. The court said the decision to sack the Auditor General and the way and manner that was done was unconstitutional. So AKUFO-ADDO has gone into our history books as the first sitting president to have whose act has been pronounced by the Supreme Court of this country as violating the express provisions of the Constitution. AKUFO-ADDO has also written letters ex post facto giving approval to a public officer who attained the age of 60 and was under mandatory retirement pursuant to Article 18991, and whose contract or stay in office could only be extended by contract. That is, if that person had special expertise that needed to be retained until another person of equal expertise took over from him. I don't think that Amishadai Mensah is the only person in the view of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo who has expertise in tax administration. For him to have attained the age of 60 and still be maintained there. Now, because of all these things, the GRA itself is now in shambles. Everybody, you know that. The poor chairman has resigned. But we went there, talked down on the workers. The Minister of Finance went and said, well, I'm not coming to talk down on you because I appreciate the good works you are doing. Last year you got a target of, you reached 95% of your target. And so I'm coming to commend you. I think that you should continue to harass the people. If harassment will bring you 95%. Contradictory in terms, one government, two voices. So clearly, we are in deep trouble. Very deep trouble. And the beginning of the end of our troubles will start if this group of people, Nana Akufo-Addo and his family and friends government, largely from Achim, leave the seat of government. Have you realized that he's of late making so many appointments? So many appointments. In the dying embers of his administration, he's found his pen and he's making so many appointments so that what little is left in the national coffers can be raided before the next government comes into office. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so it's sad to the extent that, pursuant to Article 199 has already been read. It is clear the parameters within the ambit of law that must mandate the appointment and reappointment if needs be of a public servant to be able to advance public administration. It is no news that the Constitution actually allows us to be able to extend, the services of public officials and key public officials for that matter. However, that provision or that exemption is not an appropriate substitute for the 60-year-old mandatory retirement rule, which actually takes precedence in law to the exemption. And the exemption is predicated on fundamental elements. That one, the services of the individual in question is extremely relevant for public good. And number two, that there is the availability of trainable minds, but who are not yet fit for the crucial discharge of the duties of that particular office. And for which reason the law allows that there can be severable appointments, but cumulatively feeding into an aggregate of not exceeding 5 years a period. Okay, so if there must be a conversation around the appointment and reappointment or whatever it is, because I find it very difficult to define at this point, given the retrospective mandate issued on a term he has already served. I really find it very difficult, and I've been roaming around the books to see what legal expression would be fit for that kind of an exercise. Unless I haven't been exhaustive in my legal research, it would appear there is no appropriate, space within the domains of law, all right, and even employment contract to be able to so decide how to appropriate a nomenclature for this. And in the absence of any such acceptable definition in law, it amounts to an illegality. So then one wouldn't be far from the truth to assert that the underdealings in respect of the extension of appointments of Mr. Emisa is illegal. There's no argument about it, and I'm not even going to argue about it. Now, listening to my uncle carefully, he had done a bit of good education on the legality of the matter, except to say that he balanced, or shall I say he unfairly tilted the scales only to the president and the wrongs he has done, without actually dealing with the element of the man himself, Mr. Emisa, who is benefiting the illegality.
The beneficiary.
Are you understanding me? And I am not to oppose what my uncle have said. I am only actually making an argument to complement what he has said. So to the extent that he has delved extensively into the wrongful act of the president as it appears, shall I be permitted to do same to Mr. Emisa himself? Because good conscience, all right? Remember that good conscience entails that you uphold your public oath in the discharge of your affairs to the country. And the oath of office any public officer takes, whether you've been appointed by the president or not, including all of us who have at some point or the other or currently under oaths, the oath is an allegiance to the state. Am I correct, senior lawyer? The oath is an allegiance to the state and not to the president. The president is an appointing authority. It ends there. And that authority to appoint is an authority that is held in the spirit of a fiduciary relationship to act for and on behalf of the people of Ghana, from whom sovereignty springs. So that is our authority. That is the authority of the ordinary Ghanaian on the streets of Ghana. But you, Mr. Reverend, who? Emisa Ameshadai. He is bearing one of the rare yet powerful biblical names, and is a man of God. Am I correct?
Yes, it's a reverend.
Why would a whole reverend minister allow yourself to be an implement of political heresies? This is political heresies. The unorthodox defiance, all right, of sound political doctrine is what is at display here in the name of smartness. So when I sit here sometimes and I talk about the silly application of common sense, this is what I mean. But I'm not surprised that even men of God, who should also be part of the system of checks and balances for our politics, because morality is critical in public affairs. It may not be critical in politics if we were to go by the Machiavellian rule, but it is very critical in public affairs, because immediately you form a government, you are no more doing politics, you are engaged in governance.
Yeah.
So what we all do at the office of the president is governance. What we all do at the ministries is governance. That is one thing we should distinguish clearly with red lines from political campaigns where you can hoodwink people. When you take the office, you must discharge your duties. So for a man of God who should be preaching reality and sound doctrine to allow himself for personal gain, maybe, I don't know, but for personal gain, because if you look at the emoluments of the office he's holding, Charlie, the man is taking about 120,000 Ghana cedis monthly. Several allowances, including the clothes he wears. Several allowances, including what the wife benefits. So clearly it tells you that there is a materialistic motive as to why any man of God will want to persist, knowing that he is erring against the state and conniving with politicians to betray the fate of the people. Because poverty and hunger can sway the fate of man. Are you aware? There are many today who don't go to church because of hunger. And there are many who don't go into the mosques because problems have overwhelmed them. Does that mean that the postulations of Peter in 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 1 is a revelation that is passing or that has come into fulfillment? And you know what is in 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 1? It talks about the heresies of the times. And just as we had false prophets, so will they even be false teachers who will hide under the word of God for the advancement of what? Their personal aggrandizement. Could that be a prophecy fulfilled by the kind of action Emisa has found himself doing? Conniving with elements in government who for their own parochial interest thinks that there is no other intelligent person in this country to man GRA, because some of us have advised and we've been of the opinion that this is not one of the areas we lack expertise. As a matter of fact, he's not the most intelligent tax expert. There are others right in GRA there. We don't need to go far. In fact, some of his own deputies are very well qualified to man that office. So the Constitution talks about where there is the need for essential expertise to be retained. Have that condition been met? Are we saying there's no essential expertise? That is wrong. There are. And if there are, then it means that entrenching him in the office is nothing but a convenient practice of favor, which is unconstitutional, which is illegal, and to a large extent, which is stupid. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wisbot. I'll read a few messages, then we proceed to our next topic. It's got to do with the...
Let me greet her before.
Kindly do. Kindly
so to all my wives who are watching, especially that stubborn one who is watching, and I know I have a witch who is also watching. My regards to all of them.
Right. Let me do a few messages. Sami Boachia Samankesi says, only reasonable and passionate leadership can boldly do this for... passionate leaders can boldly do this for their citizenry. Currently, from nursery to free SHS, no examination fees. It's free. Free SHS has come to stay. Let's keep supporting Dr. Baumia to break the aid to protect the free SHS. Thank you so much for your message, Sami Boache. You sent this one. You extend your felicitations to Honorable Chase Champon, MP for Asamankese, and Honorable Frank Asidu Bekwe, aka Putozo. Okay, thank you so much for your message. This one here says, please ask Mr. Inusa Husseini for me, what will the NDC government do to these people who breached the Constitution of Ghana? Are they coming to allow them and also do the same, or they will let the Constitution work? This one here says that my name is Odro Manso from Seshwiwi also. Has Atachia taken over from Gabi Ochidako as the new prime minister. He now comes out on cases. The IGP case, not Baumia but Ofuriatta, the SML investigation, he came, VRA did no wrong, and now power cut from Togo and the rest, he came out. The few Achim group think, the rest of the Ghanaians do not think. Change is here with us. Okay, thank you for your message. Good morning, blessing. Fact. Clear-minded and objective young men like Elvis are the kind of people we need to lead this country. I pray that one day he would have the opportunity to lead and make a change in whatever capacity he finds himself. We are doomed in the hands of AKUFO-ADDO and his oldies. Lord from Oti region. Thank you, Lord, for your message. Good morning to you all. Bless. Is the GRA boss a man of God? Is he having children or family members who are the age to be employed? From Amos in Asinfosu. Thank you, Amos. I have seen your message, I've read it, and of course, yes, the GRA boss has a family, has a wife and children. Abubakar Sadiq Mohammed says, good morning to you and your guests and viewers. As for His Excellency Nana Danko AKUFO-ADDO and his MPP government activists, it's better not to talk about them. They don't work with the 1992 constitution. They care less about the constitution of Ghana. They are kleptocrats who are in government to amass wealth and nothing else. Ghanaians can only liberate themselves by voting massively for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his NDC parliamentary candidate on 7th December 2024. Patrick Nketia says, good morning. Good morning, Patrick. Mafo Kwabna says, interesting show. Of course it is. Emmanuel Sam says, sir, you are right. Suse Suruchi says, we hope the new government will not yield under the European machinations. I wish them well. I think this has got to do with the Senegalese story. Right. Now, away from that, let's proceed to other matters. The former majority leader of parliament and former minister for parliamentary affairs, Oseche Mensah, so he's come out to say that breaking the 8 will be a Herculean task. I don't know if the flag bearer of the party actually also recognizes it, that it is going to be difficult. But I've heard him speak on platforms, and he is very confident about victory. He's very confident that come December 7, 2024, the Ghanaian people would queue to vote for him and make him president on 7th January 2025. But this is a very important person, no mean a person than the former majority leader of the party, coming out to say that breaking the 8 is not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be extremely difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult for the New Patriotic Party to break the 8. I'm actually trying to find the story so that I could get to read it for you. I think it's the paper that has actually captured it is not here, but I want to try my best possible and then see if I can get it online. So breaking the 8 will be difficult. This is according to Oseche Mensah Bonsu, former majority leader. Right, so that's going to be our next topic for conversation. And yes, so the story is here. It says that the majority leader of parliament, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, says it will be very, very difficult for the ruling NPP to break the 8. The member of parliament for Swami believes Ghanaians may turn their backs on the NPP come 2024 if they fail to address the current economic situation in the country. Retaining power in the 2024 general polls is not far-fetched, but the party will have to do more to make the living condition of the ordinary Ghanaians a bit easier. I strongly believe the 8 is doable. However, we all must accept that there is hardship in the country, and as the adage goes, a hungry man is an angry man, and so we must work hard to turn things around if indeed we want to remain in power. And how many months more until election 2024? Today is 4th April, so just about 8 months and 3 days more to election 2024. But Ambassador Sampiyale is watching. He says I should extend his felicitations to the two of you. And he says the president is an executive president under Constitution who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution frowns on any legislation that has a retrospective effect. Any contract with retrospective effect of 2 years is not only unconstitutional but criminal. This president is a bundle of conflicts, unconstitutionalities, and criminality. But did he not appoint another overaged woman to replace the disgraced overaged Commissioner General? Honorable Yunus, fantastic legal submission. This came from Ambassador Sam Piali. Right, so away from that, I'll proceed to Elvis Bota. He will start the conversation with us on the utterances of the former majority leader, Sechi Mensah-Bonsu.
Sometimes it's difficult to but admit that we have found ourselves in between the rock and the hard place. That's the reality. And I don't even mean to be hypocritical about it. I have, in a number of instances, made it clear that elections 2024 is not going to be easy. Not for the NPP, not for the NDC. It's a very crucial election, and we must actually confront the process of it, bearing in mind that we've got a nation to protect and we've got masses whose confidence are in our hands. I'm going to be quite analytical in the face of realities so that we are able to pass the statement made by the former majority leader through the litmus test. If by the end of my discursive and analytical approach, the litmus paper turns red, then what he says is true. If it doesn't, then the alkaline test is failed. In the first instance, political power is won purely on grounds that you have been able to convince the masses of a good future. And to be able to convince the masses of a good future, they read evidence of same from the lenses of what they are going through now. It was why in years gone by, there was a political philosophy that won an election in this country. And I don't speak Twi, forgive me if I err in accent, but this philosophy indicated that She was sitting amuna tuaba. In fact, it was later coined to mean She was sitting amuna to abapa. Am I correct? Is the accent okay? Good enough. So it means that the propensity of victory in a crucial election is partly predicated on prevailing circumstances. I cannot, even from government, be proud of the current circumstances, economically speaking. Apologetically, we admit to the people of Ghana that times are hard. We accept that the economy has not been much improved as we would have planned or as we wished. Young man, we who are much younger knows that today we are not talking about only unemployment, but we are also worried about the escalation in the prices of rent in this country. A lot of people are compromising their morality, especially the ladies, because of rent. The young men cannot even keep relationships because of rent. So he loses his girlfriend to the next gentleman who has a ghetto. To have a single room with a 32-inch flat screen television hanging there as a young average Ghanaian man is victory. So I find it difficult to hide under politics to paint a picture that looks very beautiful. So then, how different is that situation now from where we picked it from in 2017? Let us forget economic indicators and mathematical or figures based on some arithmetics or formulas that are not understood by the ordinary people. Let us come to the level of the people. The issue of rent is an example I have just mentioned. Number two is the issue of unemployment. Look at the teeming graduates. You finish a first degree, you are compelled to go for a master's automatically, just to increase your chances of employment. Is that happening? A lot are going through painful times to pay a lot of monies. Now, an average cost for an MBA in this country is 22,000 Ghana cedis, the average. How many of our youth can have that? Now, let us go to the area of food security. With all the lands we have, I don't know if you go to the market, but I do. And you forget your political office when you get to Domain Market. Yeah, I'm telling you, you forget your political office when you get to the market. Now granite paste is very expensive. Onions, sometimes you find it difficult to locate where they sell them. Are you understanding what I'm talking about? So I'm talking about scarcity. And scarcity-induced prices will definitely be skyrocketing. And that is what we call inflation, to the extent that even salt, a commodity traditionally that does not get affected by inflation, for the first time in our history got inflated in prices. So it's difficult for families out there. Can we relate that to the case of single mothers who don't even have any support from husbands? And yet they've got kids, some 4, some 5, some 6 kids to take care of. It's difficult. Okay, let me leave the situation there and painfully go back to the second important element in winning elections. Bless. Apart from the economic or socio-economic situation in the country, you also want to look at party activism, party foot soldiers. No political party can win power without the active involvement of your party foot soldiers. The men and women in the rural parts of the country, the men and women in the zongos, the men and women in the suburbs of the cities, and in the corridors of urban centers, who jump down the gutters day in and day out for us to win election. How you take care of them as a political party will reduce the propensity of apathy and will whip up simultaneously corresponding momentum for them to be able to what? To convince people out there and to fight for the party to come to power. That is how come we have all these vigilante bodies and whatnot coming. It is to whip up, activism from the youth to not only campaign but to protect the ballot and to fight the genuine interest of the party. Unfortunately, in the NPP today, we cannot be proud enough to say from the Jubilee House or from the party headquarters to actually say that the NPP grassroots have been well taken care of. I'm telling you, NPP grassroots are bleeding than even their NDC counterparts. It is more painful to fight the cause of a party. The party comes to power and you are ignored, and some individuals are becoming extremely rich. Maybe we have all become rich, but it should be in moderation. Why are people so greedy in this government that they want to amass all? We've known some who never had pieces of lands in this city before we came to power. Today they are the owners of estates. Yes. And when I talk and get back to the office, people are harassing me. Why? Let me talk. I don't even get worried about it because I think that my conscience is on a good ride. Now, the current grassroots of the NPP are bleeding. They've not had the jobs. They've not had the scholarships. They've not had any favor. What most of them get in return is complete arrogance from foolish guys who have had appointments in this administration. what they are experiencing is complete arrogance from people who never really worked like them but had the opportunity to become MMDCs. They are undermining party executives, they are undermining foot soldiers, they are undermining polling station executives, they are undermining electoral area coordinators. There is bitterness in the MPP grassroots. There is bitterness. Just yesterday, I had the unpleasant duty to be fighting a cause. Have you seen the release? And I'm just mentioning it because it is on the radar for our discussion. The Fourth Estate. On the scholarship bonanza. You see, don't even stop me. Let me speak. How can scholarships meant for the poor and the needy be given to the people we are reading as having had them? That I have my poor brothers and sisters in Tangasie, in Napanduri, in Bimbila, in Gambaga, in Gushegu. Go to Western North and see the communities there. Go to Oti region. Go to Volta region. Go to the slums in Accra. Search. You will see people with real intellect. Knowledgeable people. We didn't go to the Achimotes. We didn't go to Infantsipim. We didn't go to Wegehe. But we also produced the ACE. But we are unable to come to the University of Ghana. We are unable to go to UDS just because of 2,000 Ghana cedis. Now, each time WASI results are out, go on social media and see the number of people who post good results and admission letters and are looking for 1,800 Ghana cedis to pay fees to enter tertiary institutions. Nobody is minding them. These are brilliant but needy students. Yet, the funds meant by the state and intended to support people of that category who will be grateful and will be loyal. We are now noticing that information released by the Scholarship Secretariat to the Fourth Estate, an investigative journalist entity, indicates that Dr. Dennis AKUFO-ADDO, who is founder and CEO of Claron Hospital, had to go to Harvard University and benefited over $55,000 from a fund meant for the poor and the needy. Are you understanding me now? And you know how much that could have done for polling station executives of the party who genuinely are Ghanaians, are brilliant and needy, and have children, brothers, or in some cases themselves, who need these monies to go to local universities. 1,800 Ghana cedis. No, you've given $55,000 per this report to a very well established medical doctor who is not only a medical doctor but have one of the high paying private hospitals in Ghana at Airport Residential. That is number one. Number two, Freddie Blay, who is the chairman of the board of GNPC. He's my boss. Actually, I was one of his campaign managers to have him as national chairman. But right is right and wrong is wrong. I'm going to talk about it. How can Freddie Blay, who until now was the chairman of the party nationally, chairman of the board of the GNPC, and whose wife is ambassador to Germany, and the two co-own the biggest private newspaper in Ghana, have their daughter, who is already a lawyer, benefit several thousands of dollars under a scholarship package for poor and needy students to go and study, to be able to practice in England and Wales also. Yet, the party man in Asamankese, who is being insulted day in and day out, cannot get one roofing sheet to get a decent place for the mother. The report further reveals, and again, if it is anything to go by, that a certain Michael Oforiatta Jr., who is relative to the immediate outgone finance minister, benefited 16,740 Great British pounds to go and study in the UK under a scheme meant for needy but brilliant students. Are you getting it? That people of the political elite, people from families that are controlling important sectors of government. The report further alleges that a daughter of the former IGP, who was attending Aseshi University and paying over 51,000 Ghana cedis per semester for computer science, was withdrawn and given a scholarship for, needy but brilliant students to go to the UK to study a hybrid program in law and computer science. How come that they were able to pay 51,000 and more at Ashesi and cannot pay same? They've suddenly become needy. Let's be honest. I don't know. You see, bless, this is gross impunity in the highest order. You have the report further alleging that a sitting acting chief executive, or is it deputy chief executive of the National Service Secretariat, benefiting 18,450 pounds. 18,000 pounds. Do you know how much that is in Ghana cedis? Multiply it by almost 18 Ghana cedis today. You get the sense that we are talking of almost 300,000 Ghana cedis, right? Or more. Yeah. How? The list is not, I will leave it here. The list is not exhausted, but I could go on and on and on and on. So under such circumstances, how do you expect grassroots who are struggling for 100 Ghana cedis today to be able to take care of their feeding for the next 1 week, to come out and fight in the manner that is required for us to retain power and to break the 8? Are you getting it? The other day I spoke some of these realities. It was a stammer who called me at 1 a.m. to warn me. And I was like, Master, we are all in this business together. The fact that you are benefiting doesn't mean you should call me at 1 a.m. But I'm here again to speak realities. That, you see, breaking the 8 is not a mantra that is thriving on sloganeering. Evidence must come to bear. Are you understanding me? So under such circumstances, how can one be very confident that breaking the 8 will be easier for us unless there are plans underway to win in a manner not in accordance with legitimate procedures as constitutionally established? So that is a major source of worry. But you see, when you have a country where its politics is profitable than its industry, you are up a risk of violent tensions and civil disobedience. Increasingly, Ghana's politics, from across all political sections, the NDC, NPP, Ghana's politics has become actually far more lucrative than any business in industry. It explains why students cannot wait to leave the university and go into politics. You can't blame them, because they've seen their poor neighbors become rich overnight by means of what? Political offices whose impact the state doesn't even benefit. All manner of needless positions are created for people to become staffers. And yet you have constituency executives who are attending funerals, buying fuel in their motors and cars to attend funerals and to have the unpleasant duty of contributing 10, 20 cedis to donate at funerals and social gatherings in the name of the party. Yet unscrupulous elements are in Accra, benefiting in thousands and in millions of pounds. Meanwhile, these are the people receiving salaries, okay, that are already exorbitant and stealing enough with the abuse of their offices. How different is this? Otherwise than to say it corroborates the philosophy behind the kind of appointment Mr. Reverend Emisa is enjoying. So, my father, the respected Honorable Chairman Sabonso, is not far from right. That man is a very experienced politician whose counsel we must take seriously. For him to have spoken publicly on this, for Honorable Chairman Sabonso, the man is not a lawyer, he's not a diplomat, but very diplomatic in his approach. He doesn't just guess to do things randomly. For people like that to be speaking, in addition to what some of us have been saying from 2017 till now, in spite of what we are in government and what we've been in the party, tells you that there are cause for worries. And you see, sometimes people think you are better, someone have made more money than you. No. Far from the reality. But we must be very truthful in our discharge of public duty. A house or two and a car or two is it not enough? All this amassment of wealth is vanity. Look at how we die suddenly sometimes, and no house or car is following you anywhere. Are you understanding what I'm talking about? So when wickedness prevails over a nation, do not think that it is God who is punishing the nation. Sometimes the kings you choose to rule over you can defy common sense and defy divinity and the divine will of God and subject masses into torture and treachery and pain, like it happened in the Babylonian kingdom under King Nebuchadnezzar, who showed no mercy and no pity to anybody. When you have a simultaneous interaction of these situations coupled with a civil service regime that is unattractive, Armageddon is inevitable in your country. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Elvis. But very well said. Let me turn my attention now to the Honorable Yunus Hussaini.
Oh, but why would he talk on this matter?
Well, so I'm just going to
my own family.
Yeah, so I'm just so happy that you have just spoken like Chiba Sabonso, the venerable Chiba Sabonso. Chiba Sabonso has the record of, apart from the first parliament of the Republic of Ghana, he's been in all parliaments since our democratic experiment. He's been the minority leader who worked very hard for the MPP to transition from opposition into government. And he's been the majority leader until recently. So when such a person speaks, you must listen. And when he speaks from the heart. Now there are many reasons why Chiba Sabonso will say what he has said. So many years ago, there was also a venerable man called G.H. Mensah. He had also been the majority leader, the minority leader at a point. He has said that you don't send rotten cassava to the market. No one goes to the market to buy rotten cassava. Now, so the first reason why breaking the 8 in this year's election will be a Herculean tax is that the MPP is presenting to the people of this country rotten cassava in the person of Baumia. It's rotten to the core and will have no use apart from peeling it and making it into kunkunte and turning it to face the wall. It can't pound fufu. So no one goes to the market to buy rotten cassava. And Chambers also recognizes that the presentation of Bawumia to the people of Ghana as the MPP flag bearer is presenting an impossible choice. 2, every economy plays a very significant role in the choices people make when confronted with the decision on leadership. What is the state of our economy now? Do we have an economy? We are junk status. We don't have an economy. Ghana has no economy. Yes, I don't know whether you have been looking at what has happened to us as a people. In 2016, even though Elvis was still working for opposition, if Elvis had in his bank account 420,000 Ghana cedis, Elvis, that was how much? $100,000.
Yeah, that was over $100,000, yes.
In 2016. Now, today, that $100,000, how much do you need?
1.3 million. In fact, 1.6.
No, that's 1.4.
If you are buying at forex rate, if you are buying at forex rate at that level, so know that the
so between 1.4 and 1.6.
Yes,
means that your 1.6 million, which you had in 2000, in 2016 sitting in your account, which was $400,000. Not so?
400,000 cedis.
No, $400,000.
Oh, yeah.
That's your 1.6 million.
Yeah.
If you had it in your account
in 2016.
in 2016, and it's still sitting in your account today, and since 2016 you have done nothing with the money, it's still sitting in your account, that your 1.6 million is now $100,000 by simple colossal mismanagement of the economy by this government, this economic team, management team headed by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. That's what this government has done to us. That's why businesses are collapsing. That's why foreign investors are not coming. Because no foreign investor will come into this country when the city is not stable. You were a government worker. So you were receiving 20,000 Ghana cedis as your salary. That 20,000 Ghana cedis was huge money in 2016. Today it's just a little above $1,000. But that was close to $4,000 or more than $4,000. Today that 20,000 is just a little above $1,000. That is how the policies of this government, the AKUFO-ADDO's government, has made us poor. Little wonder that this year alone, our CD has depreciated by more than 50%. And that depreciation, by the combined effect of what I'm telling you, the loss of the value of the currency and the printing, the inflation, has put 1 million people into poverty. 1 million into poverty. They're not poor men. Because of the policies of this government. Because of the policies of this government. This government, again economy, ran to the central bank and got central bank to print a lot of money. Illegally print a lot of money, thank you. Knowing full well that the printing of money not backed by production leads to what? Inflation. Food inflation is now standing at 28.7%. Food inflation alone. So you see, really breaking the 8. They also know that the 8 is not easy to break. That's why they have made it able to break in the 8. It's going to be Herculean. He has talked about the rent. Now go to East Legon. No, go to Nima. You now find people who are living in East Legon renting houses in Nima.
And Nima and Kwabenya and...
You now find them there. And you go to East Legon now, or the plush areas of Accra, there are buildings available for rent with tenants. No tenants.
I bet if you don't have your own house, it's in dollars.
Yes, no tenants. So, to be honest with you, breaking the 8 is an impossibility. It's an impossibility. Unemployment. Recently, Bobby came out and said that, oh, they had created 2.1 million jobs. He was fact-checked. And the statistical service says unemployment starts at 1.2 or so percent. At 1.2 million people. So if you took Bobby's statement, it means that we were actually underemployed because there were vacancies which were not filled. But there's still unemployment. Many people graduates, and to know that there is hardship and unemployment in the system, go to the airport in the evening, or the day that Dubai comes, and it comes every day. Just go to the airport, or behind your office here, Canadian High Commission. Go there you see the queue. Hundreds of people queuing to take visas and leave the country. People have simply lost hope. How do you break the 8 with this kind of hopelessness? Corruption. Elvis has demonstrated how corruption has seeped into the fabric of this country and has become the new norm in MPP. That is now the reality in MPP. That you can even advertise a contract for the management of electricity distribution services in this country, and a company forms and says that they are going to be power distribution services. They call themselves PDS. An insurance guarantee, a bank guarantee was under the instrumentality of the rotten cassava changed to an insurance guarantee. The company worked for some months. As we speak today, the company has not accounted for the monies that it collected. Then, in the early days of the MPP, you remember the miscellaneous. You know, where they said there was contaminated fuel, and where the fuel was sold to a company that had been formed only the previous day. Only the previous day. You remember Aberi? Yeah. And the resignation of Boachi Ajako. You remember? Corruption galore. I don't know which people will want to continue on this tangent of putting people in office who will be nauseatingly corrupt. Do you know the number of pensioners that we have in this country? That the Constitution even says that the pensions, and that is Article 199 again, for the benefit of our when we are talking, we should be talking on the position of the law and what these people have done to our pensioners, and they still expect to break the 8. I don't think that they think that our pensioners are fools. Are they? I don't think that they think so. No, I don't think so. Because the pension payable to any person shall be exempt from tax.
Shall is mandatory.
What is haircut? What is haircut? And these pensioners are dying now. And this year, 7th December, they will be voting. And you say that they should reward that person who is, or that party that is exacerbating their death. I simply could not get it. I mean, I have said elsewhere that it will be crazy on our part as Ghanaians to reward a failed government or promote a failed vice presidential candidate. Just yesterday, Mr. Kwachi, Dr. Kwachi, has said that the stability in power that we are enjoying presently is largely as a result of past investments. Simply put, this country, this government has not done anything. And even the stability is now under threat. Every day we are having to shed power. At critical times, we are having to shed 650 megawatts. If anybody is in this country and says he doesn't experience DOMSO, he doesn't experience power outages in his area, then maybe his line is connected to the house of the president. I understand that those houses around the house of the president, around Lima, don't experience power outages because they don't put the president off. If your house is not there, or probably not connected to Jubilee House, you know.
People go and rent.
I think last week even the Jubilee House went off.
Yeah, Parliament even went off at a point.
Yeah.
So
You work at the Jubilee House.
the cathedral. The president took his private project. You have a party. I mean, when you were there at Deputy National...
Which cathedral?
The National Cathedral that the president was building.
Intended building or was building?
Oh, he said he was building a cathedral. And he had promised us that it was going to be commissioned on 6th March. What of this year, 2024?
But there was a commissioner.
Oh, even that commissioner, I don't... Look, I'm telling you that sometimes I have difficulty in understanding even the MPP. You are a party on whose wings the president rode to power. The president says he has got a personal commitment to build a cathedral in honor of God, to thank God for making him president. What did your party say, Elvis? Did your party remind the president that your personal commitment to God cannot be fulfilled on the altar of public resources? Because it's a personal commitment, and that if you want to build a cathedral, you must go look for resources elsewhere, private resources, to be able to do that, because that's your personal commitment to God. We looked on, sank a lot of resources into the biggest hole in West Africa. I don't want to say Africa because I've not gone to the most expensive hole that has been built. And though today he's not talking about, no one is talking about completing the cathedral.
We are aware of the hole, not the cathedral.
No one is talking now. Even the president is not talking about the completion of the cathedral. No, yes, he simply abandoned it. Meanwhile, he has sent 400 million. And you think the people of Ghana will reward Bawumia, who was head of economic management team, and who could not advise the president to move away from this ostentatious project? People will reward him. So breaking that will be difficult. Which party or which people of a country will reward the perpetuation of a clique in government. Senegal did not do that. When Ahmed Ba was put up by Macky Sall, the people of Senegal rejected him. It's not that Ba is not a good politician, but they don't want the perpetuation of a status quo ante. They don't want it. They don't want it. So which people? Are we fools in Ghana? That's why breaking the 8 will be difficult. That if you only claim to holding a political office, must be that you must be connected either by blood or by relationship, friends or otherwise, to the Achim mafia. How can you run a country like that? Kakistocracy and kleptocracy combined. How can you run a country like that? So breaking the 8 will be difficult. Will be difficult. I mean, it is an impossibility. We are aware of research that is clearly showing that the MPP will do well if they get 40% of the votes.
Right. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister. Our time is up.
It's 10 a.m. Because as a matter of fact, these happenings speaks volumes of the current situation about the free SHS students at home.
Yeah.
And the lack of money to feed them is a reason.
Yeah.
And that we are hearing about
1.3
my boss
billion
wants
cedis.
to give 1.3 billion cedis into distributing iPads for kids who don't have lights to charge them.
You know that. That's why you should have held on to the deputy. You should then you be advising them, because how you don't have lights.
So where are
You
they
don't even have
going to
textbooks.
You don't have textbooks.
You don't have textbooks.
You don't have a syllabus.
And you are giving iPads.
School feeding program is in shambles.
You're not feeding them.
It's okay.
The school buildings.
Feed them, but open the classrooms for the people to go
Yeah.
and feed them. Feed the borders.
They are still going to the red and blue.
Yeah, the double track.
The double track. It's not ended.
Directly from my house, I take care of 6. Those in secondary school. Directly from my house. My sister's kids and some. You get what I mean? 6. I know what
you
is
say that
happening.
they say that you are going to break the.
You see, when you get to the office and advise, the last time I came here and the attack started, they said I come and sit here in my capacity as a pastor. I don't know. Have you ever invited me in my capacity? There's this falsehood in the corridors of the presidency that I come here as a pastor and under the guise of sermonizing, I pontificate against the government. So for that matter, they think that your mama is now paying me for this kind of a job. They say old John that I said will lose. They say I am going on with life under his payroll. But clearly, I think that there are important things, simple things we could have been able to do to make governance more better and to make breaking the 8 much more easier. The only reason we can break the 8 at this point is because the opposition too is not credible. That's the only reason. No. And I've been saying it here. Your party, you can't break the 8. But your party is not credible. So it becomes an issue.
You see, let me tell you why MPP has no case. Elvis, in 2016, you campaigned. You campaigned on the economy. The stats were there. You said John Mahama was not performing well because of those stats. Yeah, you set a standard. You set a standard for John Mahama. You said what he was doing, you could do better. Now, you convinced Ghanaians. You conducted lectures around the country. And people believed that the performance of John Mahama was below standard and that he was incompetent. On those stars that were available, today you have not even reached those stars, let alone the highest standard that you set for John Mahama. How can you convince me?
No, I can convince you because JM said Ghanaians forget easily. So JM said Ghanaians forget easily. So they will forget.
But let me just add one thing. You know the letter ratifying the appointment of Emisa
Emisa,
whatever his name is, let's
Emisa,
yes.
It was written on the 26th of March, 2024. Ratifying a contract that was ended on the 3rd in 2023.
2023.
To the 6th of March.
That was what I meant by a retrospective mandate.
Interesting. Well, all right. Thank you very much for your time. But let me read these two messages. Bless, you can be sure that the Reverend will not go unpunished in 2025 in an NDC government. The writers of letters backdating his contract should as well prepare for prison, inshallah. Thank you so much for your message. Abdul Razak Mahama is sending this one. And he says, I'm trying to get the message, but I know Abdul Razak Mahama sent a message. Let me see if I can get it. Abdul Razak Mahama, unfortunately, your message is missing. It's missing, so I can't read it. Let me see if I can find it, because he mentioned me. Yep, I think I have it now. Good morning, Bless. My greetings to Alaji and Elvis. Tell Elvis it is Mahama Abdul Razak. He is speaking my mind and almost the minds of all Ghanaians. Thank you very much. Thank you, Abdul Razak Mahama, for always doing the watching all the way from the United States of America. And to all our viewers who took time this morning to tune in, we are extremely grateful. The morning show comes your way again tomorrow at exactly 8 a.m. The newspaper review segment will take off. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.